Hi, welcome to Director's Spotlight for the week of, what week is it? I know today is September 16th, but I have no idea where the week started. My guest today is Mary Stevens. She's a PhD student in the Theater and Performance of the Americas program. Mary may be one of the central figures of the arts in Phoenix, and when I go through the list of all the things we have to talk to Mary about, you'll understand why. She is, you did your undergrad here too, right?
Yeah, I did my undergrad.
So just like actually last week's guest, Marcelino, one of the few people to actually rejoin us as a graduate student after having completed an undergraduate degree. So she has a bit of a deep perspective on the way ASU in general works, but also the School of Theater and Film, as she's seen it evolve for quite a long time. So Mary, let's talk first about Performance in the Borderlands. You're boots on the ground for that program.
Boots on the ground, definitely. Performance in the Borderlands is an initiative out of the, do I look here or there?
You can look at the camera.
Awesome.
Either one.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to go like this.
Okay, sounds good.
So Performance in the Borderlands is an initiative out of the Theater Performance of the Americas PhD program. And the whole idea behind Performance in the Borderlands is that we look at innovative performance practices that have to do with identity or borders, any type of border identity, whether that's physical borders, identity borders, race, gender. And we're really interested in curating and presenting work that maybe wouldn't always come to Arizona. Mm-hmm. And this year, we're pushing an initiative under Tamara Underreiner, props to her because she's awesome, in pushing local artists and how they work with national and international artists as well. So, I mean, I think it's probably one of the most unique initiatives that we've seen out of any school of theater in the United States.
And who's the next artist that's coming up for Performance in the Borderlands?
We have, on October 29th, we have No Roosters in the Desert, which is not a local, but an Arizona-based artist talking about issues of gender and immigration. Mm-hmm. We do have 3 or 4 conferences that are coming up in the next semester, and then we also have Civil Disobedience, which is going to be bringing in JoJo Diggs, who is a house dancer. She was here last year. And she has just hit the scene running, and so it's a lot of, it's not just theater, it's dance, it's all types of performance. Right. It's from urban to immigration to Chicano, so I think it's a pretty powerful initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it crosses a lot of different borders.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about civil disobedience? I mean, this is something that actually has very little to do with, you're the sort of sole theatrical representative at this point, but we're hoping to change that.
So Civil Disobedience, September 30th from 6 to 10. September 30th, that's a Friday night. It's
Mark
a free event for everyone who's interested in the urban arts, so that's hip-hop, house, DJing, graffiti, MC, spoken word. We're bringing it all together here, and it started as an idea of how do we bring people who wouldn't usually come together, so hip-hop artists and, let's say, salsa dancers, mm-hmm. both urban arts, together in a place where it's safe, because as many people know, when you get a lot of, often people of color, there's targets in those ways that are very, very unfortunate, and so how do we continue to make ASU a place of safety for our community and different types of movements. So ASU Behind the Art Museum is hosting its first one. It's 4 times a year, mm-hmm. and it's open to everyone, so anybody can perform. It's open styles. So if you're a theater person and have a piece of hip-hop theater, you can totally get in on that. But it's in its 3rd year, and the whole idea is really just creating a safe space for many different representations of people to come and do performance. So it's right up our alley. Theater will be in it much more in November, and then throughout as we move forward.
Yeah, I went to last semester's dance competition outside that was held in the plaza outside the FAC. That was kind of amazing. Yeah, and it really changed the way that people see that space. Now when people are walking by, they're like, oh, this is where Civil happened. And as many of us theater people know, that area behind the art museum isn't always used. It tends to be a little arid and austere. You know, It's not an activated space very much. And that very much activated the space. I mean, there was, off to the side, there was graffiti going on, not on the building, obviously, although in some cases the exterior of the building could use that kind of thing.
Right.
But then they laid down sheets of masonite where there was breakdancing going on. And
totally.
It was kind of fantastic.
And the other really neat thing is that one of the big pushes on it is how do we get people to start learning about the urban arts and not just watching it. I think we go to these events, we watch it, it's amazing, I feel good. Right. But actually being able to learn with some of Arizona and nationally, like graffiti artists or DJs, because, I mean, mixing is its own art that we often don't give credit for. Yeah. So we have these clinics that go on at every Civil Disobedience where people can come and actually learn how to bomb. What is a tag? What is a bomb? What is a name? What are the different ways and codes? And so it would be great to get more of our theater students out doing these kind of things. And in terms of like undergraduates, getting their participation at future civils.
Right on.
Yeah.
Mary, one of the things you do is you work with the Tumbleweed Drop-In Center, right?
Yeah. Not currently, but I did until recently.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit more about what Tumbleweed's about and the ASU connection there?
Sure. So under Stephanie Woodson and the Theater for Youth crowd, which are also another PhD and master's program here at ASU, they have reached out to work with Tumbleweed Center for Youth Development, which is commonly known as a youth homeless, at-risk youth kind of hub to have their needs met. So food, clothing, educational purposes. It's not recreation, but it's a safe space for homeless or roofless youth.
Right.
And Stephanie and Roger pioneered a relationship with them to use Theater for Youth graduate students to go in and work with these youth. And every year so they work with them for a year, and they create, this is what we did, but this is what's continuing,
sure.
To create an original piece of work that deals with the stories of homeless youth in Arizona. And it's presented every year at the Fringe Festival. And for 2 years running, it's been sold out every night. It's one of the biggest drawing shows. Sarah Sullivan, props to her, has done an amazing job. Xanthia Walker, one of the first people in there.
That was a great show. I saw that one.
Mm-hmm, and they really deserve a lot of credit because they work long hours. Stephanie and Roger do great work over there. Mm-hmm. And Bank of America, generously donated. I think that also needs to be sort of put out there. And then it's really creating this relationship that has a lot to do with going kind of both ways.
Right.
So what they did last year was they toured the show that went up last year at many different colleges and universities. Mm-hmm. And that's the next iteration, is getting these things to tour. So it's really a safe space for people to use the arts as a way to tell stories and get that word out, what's happening in Arizona.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's a fantastic program for a school of theater and film to be involved in.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't believe you actually managed to do all this stuff, but on top of all this, you do something really interesting. You actually own and run the Phoenix Hostel. Yeah. And can you talk a little bit how you got into that?
So I do. I recently took ownership right when I started the PhD, which was 2 years ago. I also became an owner of a small business in the downtown. My mom ran it for many years. Okay. Yeah. So I grew up in Arizona, but in a strange way, I kind of grew up in the world because my family was an international family. Every day, new people from around the world were coming in.
Sure.
And then I went away to do my graduate school, and when I came back, I decided to take it over. We were thinking sell it or make it a family business. I took it over, and it's really, I have to say, it has been, I think, what got me through doing my PhD.
Sure.
Many people are like, I can't believe you would do both. But for me, it was so grounding to be able to be thinking about different things on an international level.
Right.
To have conversations with engineers, scholars, other students coming into my living room every day.
That's funny because we think of people who stay at hostels as being kind of itinerant backpackers. We don't really think of them as young professionals and the traveling educated.
Yes, and that's and I think in America specifically, that's sort of maybe not the way that we want to think about it anymore. You go to Europe, and the people that stay in hostels are not just like poor kids with no money.
Right.
They tend to be students, just like our undergraduates here are. They take a year off or they take a semester off, and they travel the world to ask new questions. And they come back to their schooling or back to their professional life invigorated, inspired by what the world has had to offer. So the majority of our clientele are young professionals and students, and usually upper division students, so seniors. And then if you're from England, they're obviously on what they're called the gap year.
Right.
But it's an incredible place for ideas, culture, education, and mostly a place where the world comes to us. And ASU we've built a relationship with ASU. We use the hostel now. Tamara sort of proposed this idea to say, let's use the hostel as a place where we bring our artists so we can actually afford to have them here.
Right.
And so we discount all artists that work with ASU, or we talked about the Fringe Festival perhaps. How can ASU, our theater department, and the Fringe, and the hostel all work together? And we're seeing that shift. So I love it. It's fun. And it's interesting.
All these things have come together in a way that puts you, like I said at the beginning of the spotlight, as sort of a centerpiece of the Phoenix art scene. Can you talk about, you have a perspective on this that goes back deeper than mine and is more richly involved. Right. What do you see the trends in the art scene in Phoenix are right
now? I think it's a good time to be in Phoenix. And I know with the swirling political debates, there's a lot of conversation about who wants to be in Phoenix, who belongs here. I think if you're a theater artist, if you're a student, and you want to be a part of the community, this is the time to invest in Phoenix, or Tempe. But this larger Phoenix area, it's a great time to start theater companies. Maybe not financially, but
I was about to say economically not so much. But when is it a good time economically to start a theater company?
That's a good point. But I will say this: there's a different type of economics that's running around, and that is that we become our currency. We are the money. And so what is happening in Phoenix, and it wasn't here 2 years ago. It really is a product of the economic downturn and a lot of the political strife that's happening. Is unique and sort of ironic partnerships are forming. People that wouldn't usually work together are now like, let's work together.
Do you have an example?
Okay, so for example, an initiative that I'm going to meet on in 15 minutes with the Phoenix Center for the Arts, which has notoriously been kind of closed down, no one knows about it kind of thing.
Yeah.
They are now beginning a new initiative to open their doors, and under Joseph Benish, and he's taken the leadership on that. It's been amazing. They're going to start working with the spoken word community, which has never been featured in the space. And they've tried numerous times to get into the space. And through, I guess I would be the conduit to which that happened. But now we're going to start in October a big urban arts showcase once a month, sponsored by Phoenix Center for the Arts for free. Local artists, musicians coming out for free, getting a space that, if you've ever been in, it's beautiful and amazing.
Third Street Theater, right?
The Third Street Theater. Mm-hmm. And this is just one of the initiatives that's happening. We're looking at graffiti artists being featured at MIM, and hip hop. Our biggest hip hop people are now being featured at Musical Instruments Museum. Again, not something you would usually see.
No, that definitely is a little bit of an odd combination.
Exactly, and you're seeing these types of alliances happening all over. And so, if you're an innovative person, if you're a visionary, this is the time to be in Phoenix and really reaching out. And a recommendation is just volunteer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Start by just saying, "Hey, I want to help," and next thing you know, you're opening your own theater in 2 years. I really mean it.
It's like a disease.
Exactly. Volunteering leads to innovation.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So it's exciting.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Mary.
Yeah.
I try to keep these things under 10 minutes because I know that you all have valuable time, but we've gone to 12. That's great. I think every bit of this has been amazing.
Yeah, it has.
And actually, we may have to bring you back on again just so we can finish talking about all the things that you get into.
Yeah. And if you want to find me, mary.stevens@asu.edu. Performance in the Borderlands, get involved.
I'll post all those URLs for everything that you're involved in on the description too. Come back next week. We're going to interview Abraham Antonia, who's from Malawi and is a fantastic actor in our undergraduate theater program. And he can give us a little bit of the perspective on the international student experience. So make sure to check back next week. In the meantime, have a good weekend, and we'll see you later.
Thank you.